In their last match, they both put up the exact same time, a 1:25:27. So it should be pretty close. I think both of them think the other one's going to win, but they're two very high-level players. So this should be a good one, don't you think, Bitey?
Yes, most definitely. Really looking excited to this today. It should be a very, very close match, like you said. And I think it's quite funny, like you said. They both probably think that each other's going to win. I think that everyone kind of going into that this kind of level of play, they always think the other person's going to win. But as you know, there's only one winner and one loser. So we'll see who's going to be triumphant today.
Yeah, unless they both forfeit. But no, they're both 5-0 in the tournament. And their average times across their races are 21 seconds apart, so it's still really close. And actually, yeah, they do think that the other one's going to win. I actually have a clip of Buane and what he thought about this race from about a week ago, a little over a week ago.
So it's funny that you mention both people forfeiting. I remember I wasn't actually commsing a match, but I was watching a match in the German tournament, I think it was last year there. And both players actually soft-locked the game at different points. Someone did a quadrant glitch, I believe, in blind, and then someone death hold in the other race, and he just had to cancel the race and restart it.
Yeah, A Link to the Past does have those rare things that don't happen much. You hate to see it happen, but it does indeed happen. Now, I played that clip from Buane. I don't have an audio clip from Doom, but he basically said the same thing. He said Buane's mid-game is better.
We never actually got that audio, Blue, sorry. The audio didn't come through from... Oh, maybe it did actually. It just didn't maybe come through for me. Sorry, guys.
Well, if you didn't hear it, I don't think anyone heard it. Wait. Here we go. I got it for you right now as we're starting. So let's hear what he had to think.
The PBs don't tell the whole story. Doom has put much more work into some of the harder areas of the game. Probably has the best Gannon, and his GT is miles better than mine. The early game is more consistent. My mid game is better, but it doesn't matter because he's so good at end game. And he's just everywhere pretty much more consistent. So I'm not expecting a win. I wasn't expecting to win the tournament either, so I would just like to make it a good race.
And yeah, Doom basically was saying the same thing today. He doesn't think he's going to win. He thinks that Buane's mid-game is better and his in-game is better. Although the one thing that they both said differently is they both think the other person has the better early game. So we're going to see what happens here as they enter the escape segment to start it off.
So the escape segment, if you are not familiar with the game, pretty much mostly a movement segment, a little bit of RNG, but basically utilizing very, very clean movement. Trying not to nudge walls, corners, very clean slashes, lifting pots, and obviously the infamous pumping. Both these runners will be pumping their hearts out, trying to get all of those frames that they can get out of escape. And we are getting Buane going down the right-hand side. Gotta love it.
You don't see this very often. This is something that actually they used to do in like all the really old world records. If you track those down and find those, it used to be the common thing, and almost nobody does it anymore. I didn't even realize that Buane did it.
I'm not sure if he does. He might just be doing that for the race there, but Doom taking a hit there on a key guard. Probably lost him a second or so there. Not a big deal. Gonna let Buane get slightly ahead.
Yeah, and I think those two sides where you go left side or right side are very close in time, so might have just been something for us to talk about and escape for fun, huh?
Yeah, Fricker's mentioning that the Japanese runners typically go down the right side. I'm not sure why specifically they would, but that's interesting.
So yeah, we were basically neck and neck right until that room, and that one little mistake is just, you know, the half a screen edge right here.
That's what you'll notice. Typically with high level players like of this caliber, 123 versus, you know, like a 124, 125 runner, they will just not necessarily have better strats or better execution, but they will just bleed. The slower runners will bleed time every single room, and they'll just slowly gain advantages. But obviously, these two runners are very, very good runners, very close in time. So we should expect if both runners have a really good race, it should flip-flop back and forth, barring any major mistakes.
Right. So when you start running this game, you know, it's kind of a thing where you hear, oh, that strat's harder and it only saves 10 seconds. So you think, oh, it's not worth my time. It's not worth my time. But when you get down to a certain level, it maybe starts to be worth it. You know, that's when, you know, there's 500 screens in the game. So some of those 10-second things start to add up to minutes over more than 500 screens. That it's just a lot.
Yeah, if we take Escape, for example, you know, like someone kind of the 125 level will expect to get like a 552, you know, 53, for example, 51 if you're having a really good escape. But likes of the, you know, like Eddie and Eri and stuff like that, well, they'd probably be disappointed with that. And probably Eddie, you know, for example, the world record holder would reset that because he wants to get, you know, at least a 50 or a 49 coming out of escape. So, and all that is just basically good movement, some execution, and very, very good pumping. So.
Yeah, and you got to react to some RNG, especially in the back half here. I mean, there's some all over, but especially there with all the rats flying around, as we'll see here as they enter the sewers. Buane also, you can't see the splits on the Zelda Speedruns restream, but he's throwing us off here. He's running against his sum of worst, and I was trying to think, like, how did he get a 6-minute escape?
I mean, if that's the worst escape he's ever had, that's doing well.
It is doing pretty well. So they both get through this snake room very cleanly, and that room can look all kinds of different ways, and it doesn't give you a ton of time to react, but just all the reps that you get in, you start to be able to actually do it and get through it cleanly eventually.
Well, Doom taking a little bit of a hit from the rat there. Not too bad. It didn't cost him too much time, but again, another 30 frames or so there. I'll just put Buane just slightly ahead here, but into the key rat room here, and we're going to get the north rat for Buane. And Doom, you can see, oh, and he doesn't get the key, boom the rat. So Doom will definitely catch a little bit of time up there. We hate to see that. I believe we call it Seattle key, and Doom getting nice key rat, but unfortunately booming the rat. So, but he'll definitely make up a little bit of time there.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically dead even for me right now. So it's that's just the way that it goes.
So we'll probably have about a 553, I'd say, for both players. A 554 maybe for Doom. So 1 second splitting them apart out of the gate. And I'll be interested to see if they take Sankar. I'm guessing they might both grab it here. I know that Buane probably will be on one heart, and I'm pretty sure Doom will grab it too for race settings.
They've both been getting in races. They would skip this in their PB attempts because their PBs are so low, and it's just a different thing in a race. That extra safety net can make a difference because, you know, if you're just going for PBs, it doesn't matter if you PB on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and sometimes it takes months and months, and, you know, you want those seconds, but in this setting, you only get one shot.
That is absolutely correct, and if Light World can be very, very punishing. And pretty much you have the ability to die in any of the Light World splits. Well, I wouldn't say Eastern the odd time in Desert, but definitely when you get into Hera, for example, it's having that one extra heart can be the difference between life or death, and it would give you a very big disadvantage to be dying in that split.
Yeah, Hera is a big one because, you know, this is a split where we have some intentional damage. I mean, we do in Eastern too. We're going to see that coming up. But then also just Death Mountain, at any skill level, there's RNG that just happens too, right? You can respond to things, but also some things just are going to happen to you. And that can make that a very dicey split with one less heart.
Buane making up probably a second or so there. I know Doom got hit by the Octoroks on the Octo screen, and it knocked him back. So Buane having a little bit of a better overworld there and getting a couple of seconds ahead there. Coming into the Style Force room here, this is actually more difficult than it looks in my opinion. It's an input room heavy, and it's quite easy to finger or push the wrong D-pad. We call fat finger the button and get a wrong input. I know sometimes can happen, but both these runners look as if they're going to be successful there. Very, very nice, and through to the next rooms.
Yeah, no problem there. And the next big trick that we'll have coming up will be to get the big key in a couple of rooms. And that, I'm guessing they'll both get these arrows that Buane's getting here. Very few people skip those. And if you do, it's usually because you're kind of on this level where you're at a 123 runner. And you can typically make it up later, by having extra arrows and that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you do skip those arrows, you are relying on an arrow drop, and if you do not get that drop, you will have to go down in the double ready rooms and pick up an arrow, and that is very, very costly. So it is a gamble. It's about a 1 in 8 chance that you will get skulled, but obviously you don't want to take that kind of chance in a race.
Right. One shot, one opportunity. And then speaking of taking one shot, what they're going to do here is take one shot from the Popo and then use their iframes to, lift that pot and get on the switch so that they can make that room much, much, much faster. Having to do that the casual way where you have to kill all the enemies is light and day difference.
Nice to see. You will see throughout the run potentially very similar menus to see different RNGs and to help with movement in the game. So I figure most of them will be very similar, but there is the odd change, specific ones I know that Doom does that Buane doesn't. So we'll be interested to see that later on.
The Cannonball room, a very RNG heavy room, and that's another reason why it's nice to have that Sank heart. You're taking some intentional damage. You don't want to stop to recover any hearts, so sometimes a stray cannonball is all it takes, and you don't want to see that. So Doom getting the red rupee, which will matter in a couple splits here a little bit.
I believe Buane doing the top right Armos, considered probably one of the easier ones, and Doomtap going with the Pincus, which saves around 10 to 15 frames depending on how well you do it, but no problem for both runners there. Definitely Buane having a little bit of a better Eastern Palace there with a 457. That's a very, very good Eastern Palace there with Sankart.
Yep, so now this is the first part where the game really begins. I mean, obviously the game also really begins, when you get into Dark World and also when when you get to Gannon's Tower. But this is where you don't have to pump quite as much, which is really the most annoying optimization in the entire game, especially if you're resetting a lot and that kind of thing, is doing these and having to do that pumping mechanic where you keep resetting Link's movement to get those extra pixels of movement and just, using both hands on the D-pad. But now we get to dash. And immediately, as soon as we get to dash in all directions by using this glitch called spin speed, which we just slide our finger over. And on the very next frame that we let go of the sword, we hit the dash button, and then we just touch onto those manual stairs, and then Link is all over the place.
I'll be interested to look back and study the way that when Buane is doing the specific stairs on Eastern Palace there and the one on Death Mountain. Most runners of the skill level tend to do one-handed double pumping as they go up the stairs, but I don't believe, judging from Wayne's position there when he did the spin, that he actually does that. So I'll be interested to look at that later on, actually. One of those things, it's a slight just a slight advantage. It saves, it can save a little bit of frames, but obviously not all top runners opting to do it because it can, sometimes put runners off from doing the actual spin speed trick, which is definitely much more important than getting those double pumps in on the stairs.
Yeah, but Link does move noticeably faster, and this is a race where if there are no catastrophes and the uncontrollable RNGs like Aghanim and Gannon warps are equally kind or mean to everyone, then those are the kind of like nickel and dime and penny things that are maybe going to add up over the run. Because I watched their PBs side by side, and it's really neck and neck, and you would expect this, right? They're only 6 seconds apart in their PBs. They're really neck and neck right up until Moldorm 2, pretty much. Like it's practically lockstep. They're synced up at points in the upstairs of Ganon's tower. Like that's how close the potential is for both of them to be. Is right on the same level with one another.
Looking at Buane's rupee count here, he may elect to pick up the 5 rupees in the pot room in Desert. I'd say most runners, especially in a race format, will definitely want to pick that up, because if you don't have enough rupees, you would have to get a backup somewhere, usually in Aga Tower. So either he will elect to maybe grab a rupee if he sees one in Popos, or he will grab the 5 pot, which I'm thinking he's probably going to grab the 5 pot.
Yeah, it's definitely reliable if you don't get, any rupees really in Eastern Palace, which is basically the case that he's in with just 1. It's nice if you can grab that first red that drops the 4th rupee drop of the game. But if you can't, sometimes you can't. It can end up being in places that you don't really want it to be, like when you kill those Popos, the room before Armos, it can fly to the left and you don't want to waste time, or to the right, you don't want to waste time picking that up. That's a bigger waste of time, but we're going to pull true trees later, and those trees will, together drop enough rupees, but it's nice if we can skip a couple rupees and that kind of thing to save a few seconds, but you can't always do that. You go with what the game gives you.
So something I noticed off the bat is the arrow count right away. I'm guessing Doom got the double drop, which is definitely what you want to get for later on. Obviously coming into the fight with 28 arrows versus Buane's 23. Buane going to try the spin speed, but didn't get it and decided to, instead of retrying, just kept going. He got the dash animation, and sometimes people will elect to go straight back into the spin speed, but he would probably had to have stopped, so just electing to keep going. So probably a smart decision there.
Yeah, especially in a race. You just don't want to redo stuff and that kind of thing a lot of times.
Looks like both runners electing for the new Yuzu find, going below the torches to beat the aggro animations of the sprites. Pretty cool tech which was found recently. Interesting, Buane grabbing the top right arrows there. I wouldn't actually have expected that, but that's neat. Grabbing the arrows, obviously wanting arrows later on in the run. Grab them now, why not? They're there.
Yeah, you can always skip something later on if you have extra, but or if this fight goes bad and you miss some arrows or something. I mean, I don't think he's gonna miss and run out with 28, but you never know what can happen in a race. We've seen some crazy stuff.
You got 3 here. Electing to slash that because I think he knew that he wasn't going to get the second Lamo there, Buane, so he knew that he could get the slashes in and save the arrows and get the 4 cycles. So I wasn't seeing Doom. You could probably fill me in on Doom.
Yeah, I didn't get his count. I was looking at Buane too. But speaking of new tech, Doom has elected to switch to the boomerang because it was recently discovered that you can menu and the crystal pendant or the pendant will just continue to drain your pause menu, so you lose no time menuing to the boomerang here. Now, when you go to mirror later, it's 1 extra input, but potentially, you know, it can protect you from some of these pickles. If they get in your way, it can protect you from a dead rock. If you get a really bad dead rock on your way up Death Mountain. So let's see if he uses it.
Yeah, I find the hardest thing to do is actually remember to menu. I'm just usually glad that I finished the fight and I just want to break.
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to it. I had to, I've been doing it. I'm probably not using the boomerang well, but I had to just practice the room and do the full fight and practice it like that. Practice doing the menu. Otherwise, I never remember to do it until I did that.
I'm doing picking up the first bonk of the match, I believe. I think that's the first bonk I've seen so far. The infamous bonk looks only loses around a second each time, but it feels like about 10 years watching him go all the way back and having to walk again or dash.
It also just feels so bad. You know, watching that happen, you know, when you bonk and you knew you didn't pull it quite soon enough to pull your dash, it just, it's just one of those mistakes that is demoralizing a little bit.
Well, Buane taking his first hit of Death Mountain. Doom getting past 3, no problems. Right, so 1 and a 2. He will be down to 3 hearts. He's got to be careful here.
Yeah, and Doom, I think, originally missed that spin speed. And this is one of the places that, you know, if you want to get it first try, one place in the game, it's Death Mountain, because those rocks, those cabbages are coming down at you on the stairs, and that damage can add up. Sometimes they'll just hit you even if you get it first try. So you're really in a vulnerable spot there.
Yeah, well, hopefully Buane has no issues with the trolley mini mold arms. They can sneak in a hit or here or there, and all of a sudden, you know, you're down to 1 heart, so hopefully he has no issues here.
So we're coming up on one of the most boring rooms. Some people will call it an auto scroller. There's no trick that we have that's not a major glitch to get around this. You have to wait for these tiles to all unearth from the floor and get destroyed before you can move on to the next room. So I think Buane's gonna do a little pot dancing, have a little fun there. And Doom is going to do the boom dash, which is 3 inputs on the same frame. And then you cancel it to just land on the peg, on the other side of the peg, of course, the door side of the peg. And you get invulnerability and you get to take a break. And if you actually can do that, it's like one of the few times in the run that you can actually take 30 seconds off or so. I don't know if it's that long, but it feels like this run lasts for a minute.
Yeah, this is a good place to hydrate. Have a sip of beer if you're a drinker. Main torch is there from Doom. Buane having a little bit of an issue with the top left one there. So coming up to we were talking about this earlier, we were discussing whether runners will do the early bomb jump or not. This trick scares me a lot. I consider myself okay at it, you know. I would maybe try it in some PB attempts, but I would not want to be trying this in a race. So I'll be interested to see if either of them will try this or not.
I think they're both going to do it. I think we're going to see it. Well, we're about to find out on Doom's side here for sure. It looks like he's setting up for it. He's already menued, and there it is. And Buane is about to do it too. Oh, but here's the why. That's unfortunate. There's 4 bomb jumps in the run, and missing this one is maybe the most punishing. Just because now you're all the way back downstairs. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, that's rough.
In my opinion, though, it can be hard to mix strats and stuff, even if it's harder strats. And I think that Buane feels the same way. I actually clipped something. He's talking about Skull Woods bomb jump in this one, but in this clip, he's just talking about bomb jumps and, you know, changing them up and doing that kind of thing.
That's the one thing I've learned about some of the strats. Like, once you start doing strat, just don't back off of it. Your run's really good, and you're scared of doing the hard strat. Like, it's so much easier to just do what you normally do and to pick and choose based on scenarios. It's just safer to do the hard strat, really.
Yeah.
Definitely the mentality of a top runner for sure.
Yeah, it's true. Although even as a not top runner, I find that like there's already so much to know in this game, and there's so many rooms where you have to know multiple RNGs and you have to know multiple strats because the game's just going to give it to you. So, you know, the more things that or the less things you have to do and know and practice, it kind of can help make it more consistent, even if it is a harder strat per se.
Wow, that was fascinating menu. I have never seen anyone do that before. That was extremely smart. He basically was using the menu. I believe he was using it to see if he would get hit. Maybe someone else in the chat can see that, but he dashed through and used his menu to the arrows to see, I believe, the RNG or something like that. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's a rare menu. You don't see a lot of people do that there. It's definitely a very like top runner kind of thing. And I think the reason we don't see it a lot is a lot of top runners use the menu to bow in the early bomb jump in Hera to check that pixel and make sure that they're good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit that one. That's pretty smart. Like I always say, every time I watch a race or someone, I always learn something or see something new. It's a fascinating thing about this game. Even for people who have played it for years, you still see something new every time you watch someone.
Yeah, and one of the things that, you know, we always wonder about is, are the racers watching each other? Do they know that this person messed up? Are they playing it safe or not? And I asked both of them, are you going to watch the other person? And Doom is planning to check twice in the run. You know, that could change, obviously, but at the start of Dark World and entering Gannon's tower, just to see where things are. And then Buane said that he was going to check at various times in the run, including after Hera, because obviously Hera is a very trolly dungeon sometimes, after Pod and after Cold Stare. So they will probably have some awareness occasionally throughout the run about how the other one is doing. And, you know, it's hard to say whether that'll influence their decisions or not.
Yeah, it's a huge part of racing. It can dramatically affect how you do dungeons later on. You know, if you know that you have you know, a significant lead and you're low on hearts, for example. I mean, you can take that time to grab a heart, grab a safety. You don't have to be going all out, you know, to save time. So it definitely can have a big impact on how runners run the game, and especially your mentality as well.
Yeah, when you're not trying to PB and just shave off every second and skip every heart, it's a little bit in this with this one shot counts. It's a little bit easier to kind of weigh the cost benefit analysis of, I'm going to lose a second grabbing this heart versus I could lose 2 minutes if I die, even if I am really consistent at this boss or whatever.
Wayne picking up a couple of bonks in the split so far, and Doom looking to catch as fast as he can. Obviously, we're coming to the biggest part of the RNG in this run. It could definitely swing right away. We have the ability to have a 0 blue balls versus the max of 15, and can definitely easily put a minute between runners. So we will opt to see what happens today.
Yeah, but first we have to climb this tower, and this is I think it's kind of when you're starting out, it's a split that you don't die there often. You don't necessarily think like, oh, this is the hardest, because you're not losing minutes and minutes of time there versus, say, Gannon's Tower or Toro Rock or something like that. But once you start to try and shave off those seconds, you really start to understand like, oh, this is a very, like, there's some challenging movement rooms like the one right now that Doom is in. There are some technical rooms like the one that Buane is in and about to go into, like the Circle of Pots, where you can do a lot of inputs and have to read some RNG and do all these things very quickly. So it's not necessarily as easy as it might seem sometimes.
Yeah, I would debate, obviously, Hera very difficult, but it's Hera is a place it's very easy to lose time, and a lot of time. I see it all the time, you know, people have a really good light world and then you hit Hera and...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hera has some big trolls where you can lose big chunks of time, and this is kind of one of those paper cut dungeons, where you know the second here, second there. Yeah.
Buane will be stepping into Aghanim to see what his luck is today. He will roll the dice.
Yeah, or as I like to think of it, flipping coins, because each opportunity for a blue ball is a 50-50 shot. We just have to get 6 hits on him, and every cycle there are, you could get as many as 4 hits before his lightning if you win all 3 coin tosses and get the free one, or you could be in much, much worse shape.
Well, that's 2 out of 2 for Buane. And an energy ball to finish the first cycle.
Yeah, the nice thing about them not being neck and neck is it's a little easier to count them when they're in Aghanim one at a time, right?
I will keep an eye on Buane if you want to start watching Doom. Well, we got 3 in a row for Buane, so this is not looking good for Buane. He's got 5, and he's still got to get lots of energy balls left.
Well, Doom got 2 in the first cycle.
So Buane, I believe, has got a 5 there. So 5 blue balls for Buane.
There's 3 for Doom.
I think that will basically be a max of 3 for Doom, I believe. Should just be 1 for the win.
Yeah, there it is. So that will even things out a little bit.
That should put roughly around 12 seconds between the runners there. Doom obviously needing all the time that he can get here. For anyone just tuning in, Doom had a fall to the early Palace bomb jump, unfortunately, and Buane allowing himself to get a little bit of a lead. But Buane getting 5 blue balls and Doom getting 3 blue balls, closing that gap a little bit. And Buane will come out with a 29, 50 Light World, and Doom with a 30-28. So there's about 40 seconds or so, 38 seconds between the runners at this point.
Yeah, and when I watched Buane's PB, one thing that he says in it is that you don't really know how many blue balls you had until after pod. And what he means is that we're coming up on a pretty challenging dungeon. There's a lot of, there's a bomb jump here that is very technical. There's a boss that is pretty hard. He can, if you take 4 hits or so, you can be out for the count and lose a couple of minutes. And the boss is very RNG heavy. There's just a lot going on here, but we pay the monkey, we get into the dungeon, and let's see what it has in store for us.
Buane getting the unfortunate jelly RNG in the way. Obviously not as fast, but no problems there. And Doom will be entering pod to start his dungeon.
Right, so in pod, with the current routing, we do a lot of mirroring, and we keep restocking up on bombs in that first room quite a bit there, and we get a few in the back. But we also use a lot of bombs in this dungeon as well. So Buane going to fetch the big key, and then he will head to the bomb jump in a little under a minute here, in which we need to drop bombs on, we need to drop a bomb on a very specific Y coordinate, and then move up to another very specific Y coordinate, and optimally we'll drop another bomb and throw it across the way to save a little time later, because that's the big thing. Once you start to get really fast, bombs have a set detonation time. So everything you're doing, you're trying to plant them as fast as possible to be as fast as possible. So that's why we'll see one thrown across, so we don't have to wait for it to blow up later.
So basically, if you didn't notice, the Buane got the 5 drop, which is probably knew it was coming up. He slashed as early as he could to get the jelly out of the way, and the jelly dropped the arrow and got a perfect dash through it. So fantastic 5 pickup there from Buane, and no problems with the hammer jump. Oh, getting a hit from that jelly, that can be a little bit costly, because it means you have to then drop down one more pot and pick up an extra heart.
Yeah, which we'll see him do right here. It's small, but you know, these are the types of things that add up.
I think he went for 60 statue there, and thought he realized he didn't get it and had to back out there. And Doom will be making his way through now for his turn. So I'm not sure these specific players and how that affects them, but what I believe from what I've seen and my own personal experience is when you die, or when you have a major mistake early in the run, it kind of, you know, settles any kind of race nerves you may have, and you definitely realize that you have to go for it. And I quite often see people put the foot down and have a really good Dark World after they've had a major mistake, as long as, you know, people don't let it get to them too much. But I know Doom is very experienced, and he will get his head down. He will have a fantastic chase on here.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of mental errors or mistakes from him since then. I think there was maybe one thing I noticed, like an extra something the wrong direction, like an arrow the wrong direction or something like that a while back right after that fall. But he's been playing really cleanly, and you know, he definitely could catch up. You know, that it's a costly mistake that happened, but it's not, you know, the 2 blue balls difference helps a little bit as well.
So a very clean Helma from Buane, electing to use the spin speed. Helma, a very recent tech that we found, and no problems there for him. Had to duck down a little bit to dodge some of the RNG, but all in all, a clean fight. And now Doomtap coming up here for his 17 hits. You need 17 hits to take off the blue mask, and then he will require either 8 slashes, 4 spins, or 4 hammer hits. We'll go 1, 2, 3, getting the perfect RNG there from Doomtap. So he will definitely pick up a bit of time there for sure. Buane, I think had one miss hit and then had to come down, and then Doomtap almost getting the perfect RNG. So it doesn't look like much, but that could be 3 to 4 seconds there for Doom, which he definitely needs. So
yeah, Helma's RNG can be quite varied, and he can just be a bully in the sense that you have to dodge or wait, or he's moving around and you have to chase him all around, or he can just sit still and take 4 hammer hits just like that, and that's what you always hope for.
The next split that we will be going to is Thieves Town. We will be working our way down to get the flute, which we find on a magical spot, which is always the same. I'm just, for all the RNG that we have in some of the other runs, it would be funny if they placed the flute in a different spot every time. That would definitely change this run a lot. I've always wondered that.
Well, we do have the dig game in 100%, and I think that's one of the reasons that category is a little bit less popular. Is it's just those games are a pain for people to deal with. I don't think people would really like it if they had to go dig around this whole grove for, you know, God knows how long. It'd be worse than Aghanim, probably, in some cases.
Yeah, thank God the developers didn't put the effort into that one.
Thieves Town is, this segment has a great overworld, I think. I know Vortex of Doom mentioned that this is like his warm-up And I think it's a really good warm-up. I often do that first screen right out of pod too, because it's a long screen, there's a lot of movement, and it's just really a good way to like kind of get your brain set when you're get those movements down and cutting those dashes and that kind of thing when you're just warming up for the session.
Buane coming into the Usain Bolt screen. The fastest guard in the game. He is very fast. Sometimes if you don't get that movement right, he will hit you out of your animation, your spin speed animation, and it can go very wrong. You get stuck in a loop, and then you try to slash him, and you don't have your sword out because you're in spin speed state, and he just keeps hitting you and hitting you and hitting you, and you can get stuck in an eternal loop there sometimes.
And then you take a lot of damage, and then Thieves Town is a little shakier and slower and that kind of thing. And Doom coming up on Usain Bolt as well, no problem. Runners of this caliber are not going to have problems with that screen a lot. I think anybody can have trouble with any screen, even if it feels like it should be automatic. Like just suddenly these things pop up, and it's like, what? I do this 100% of the time. Why suddenly am I messing it up? But those are the kinds of things that can just happen.
I think to experience in the game, and there's so many things in this game that you don't actually realize. For example, in that screen, there's a specific pixel. I was taught it as the flower pixel, that if you actually go over that flower pixel, the guard can't hit you, I believe, unless it's very, very rare. And it's not something I really realized until someone actually taught it to me, or if you watch the, I believe it's in the FMG tutorial to show you that. But again, not something that the average player might notice, but obviously the more experience you get, every single room has things like that.
Yeah, there's visual cues all over the run, and some of these are like common ones that are known, that are mentioned in tutorials that a lot of people use, and some of them people create themselves. Like for the hammer jump in pod, people use different ones. A lot of people use the shadow. Some people are using the pause menu. There's different ones that are out there. Some are faster. Like in that case, using the pause menu is technically slower because you have to wait for the pause menu and then read it and that kind of thing. But there's just all kinds of stuff like that. And then something we haven't mentioned yet is quick warps, of course. Every time we're warping between the dark world and the light world, the X coordinate that we're on, there's a set of 2 pixels in a row, like every 8 pixels. And if you're on that set, you save like a half second in the warp animation. And that can add up because we're going back and forth between the dark world and the light world quite a bit during the run. I know depending on where you get some of your overworld items, there can be 5 of those just right in the Swamp Palace split. That's seconds of time.
Coming down into the bombable floor room. Obviously, we need to bomb this floor for later on for our boss fight. I'm sure most of you know what that is, but in case there's anyone who doesn't know, we will keep this surprise for later. And we have a raid here from ZeldaSpeedRuns 2. Thank you so much for the raids. Welcome everyone from that race, if that was a race that's going on. We have Doomtap versus Buane, with comms from myself, Bitey, and Blue Sentio. And currently we have Buane in the lead. Doomtap had an unfortunate early palace bomb jump fail and had to go all the way back down to the bottom. But in his favor, the blue balls was 3 blue balls to Doomtap and 5 blue balls to Buane. So catching a little bit of time up. So that is where we're currently at right now, with around probably a 30 to 35 second difference. Picking up the heavy glove there, which is going to be very useful for the rest of the run. Going to pick up those spicy dark rocks.
Yeah, and out of pod, their split times show a 35-second difference. But I think all in all, since that mistake in Hera, I think Doom has slowly been catching up.
Coming up to blind scripted fight. For those of you that can have a good fight, that is. It requires 9 hits, 3 hits per phase, 3 phases. Again, runners of this caliber should have no issues there. Taking a hit, but not affecting the fight at all. Very, very clean fight. And next up, it will be Doom's turn to have a go at it. Electing to walk there, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anyone walk that screen before.
Now you have. So he's entering blind, and that shows you that there, it is just that like 30-second difference here. And he's gonna try and do the same script. We always say that this boss is scripted. A lot of other bosses are almost scripted. I mean, the main thing is if you do all the button presses exactly as you're supposed to, then you don't have to worry about RNG because nothing can go off the rails. But stuff like Cold Stare is essentially scripted too if you're doing certain strats. If nothing goes wrong, you don't have to respond to any RNG. And bosses like Trinex, you have just a little bit you have to worry about. So some of them are very close to scripted as well, if they go right, and any boss can go wrong. I know, I'm sure both of these runners have died to blind. I know one of them has in the past like month. I've seen a run like that. So anything can happen anywhere at any boss, and that's what's great about races of this game is you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so noticing from the fights there, basically a good way to tell how good you did the fight is actually to see how far to the left of the light that blind finishes when you get that last kill. And Doomtap had a fantastic finish. He had beams, which means that I believe you can get him a little bit earlier, and he was very, very far over, so it was fantastic fight there from Doom.
Yeah, and so we got a couple of chores to do. We have to go get the Tempered Sword, and in some ways, I think that these screens that Buane is on right now are some of the hardest in the game. I hate the screens that you're in the same screen 3 times throughout the run because it's so easy to just like, your autopilot kicks in and you can do the wrong thing. You're like, oh shoot, I'm on the screen the second time, not the third time or whatever. And that just, oh man, it can happen. I don't think it's going to happen here. I'm hoping they're in main concentration mode. They're not distracted by any chats or anything like that. It's just focused in. And spin speed off of that for Buane. Some people elect to dash.
Yeah, it's extremely nice spin speed there, catching that warp right at the bottom, at the top there, and getting the infamous fence dash as well. You love to see it.
Yeah, this is a good split for Buane. I mean, we heard earlier that both of them kind of think that Buane has the better bid game. His Gold Skullwoods is a 518 and Doom's is a 521. Now, anything could happen. There's RNG involved in that too, especially with Moth and the conveyor that we'll see coming up. But I think we're going to see a pretty solid split from Buane here.
Coming up to the mummy room here. Definitely one of the harder rooms in the game. Can often get... Ooh, just slipped past that mummy there.
Yeah, this is kind of one of the 4 that everyone talks about hating the most, I think. It's like this and Chomps, and there's a couple others. Penguin lineup room gets mentioned in Ice Palace.
Yo, Voids, incoming with the raid. Thank you so much for the raids. Welcome, everyone, from Voids chat. We got Doom versus Buane here. We're in Skullwoods. Buane with around a 30-second leads, and we're happy to have you here. Thanks again for the raid. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and Buane does do that early bomb jump in Skullwoods. I don't think we're going to see that on Doom's side. He doesn't do it in his PB. I don't think he's done it in races from the ones that I checked and looked at and watched.
Yeah, and you have to think that possibly the early Hera is maybe in his mind too, and I'm thinking he's probably just going to want to play it safe and just have a straightforward bomb jump.
Yeah, I think we'll see him do the spin to get on the last pixel. There it is.
So getting blocked by the fire bar. There's really not much you can do about that. Again, just another part of RNG. Going to be seeing the fast Hillway strat here. No problem there for Buane. Fantastic execution. He will be moving on to the Mummy Key. And again, no problems here as well. Very,
Yeah, and
very solid room for Buane.
He's going to save that menu buffer for the moth fight. And I think we're going to see Doom use that menu buffer to read his placement on that dash in the mummy key room. Oh,
gotta be careful here.
1 heart.
Very nice finish there. Just took a hit unexpectedly. I think he was going for the poke dash and just missed it. And Moth came down and just hit him there. But very nice menu. Stayed calm under pressure. Dodged the rings and the spikes and got his last hit in there. It's fantastic under pressure there.
Yep, and Doom coming up on the boss fight now. We'll see what kind of conveyor RNG he gets. And his fight is fairly clean. I mean, he lived through it. He didn't take as many hearts of damage. The trick with Moth is that he can't take damage against these spikes because it's just a glitch from the version that we play on. It counts as level 4 sword damage, which for some reason can't damage Moth. So when you bop him into him, it cancels your damage. So you can just, ping pong him against the spikes for eternity, and nothing's going to happen. You have to either get him off the spikes or do sort of a poke strat where he bounces off the spikes back into you, into your sword to get the damage.
So now we are off to get a medallion. And very nice Moblin Spear dash turn there. That's my favorite thing in the game, actually. That little block there. It's just something small, but I just think it looks so cool to see people do it.
Yeah, it's a little swag, but it's also just, it's one of those things in all these screens, these things that you have to know that can happen and might happen, and you have to keep watching out for and be ready to respond to it at any second.
Oh, that's a little bit unfortunate there. That guard getting down there and taking 2 hearts of damage there to Doom. So be interested to see if he tries to go for safety here. He may even elect to skip or do a little bit of a safer dash here now that he's 2 hearts down. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of strats in Ice that having beams can just make it faster, or depending on RNGs with, especially there's a few jellies that we have to kill to get keys, and if they electrify, beams is a great way to do it because we don't want to waste a bunch of time menuing, and we only have so many fire rod shots with the amount of magic because we need full magic going into Cold Stare.
So there's your backup heart there for Doom.
And Buane on one of my favorite screens of the game. These long movement screens, the Pod Overworld, Lost Woods. I just like those screens. Like they're really good screens to practice and a lot of fun. And he's going to get the flippers for 500, which is practically the only reason we need rupees in this run. I mean, the vast majority of ones that we need, those 2 chests we have to get, it's all for this. For these flippers, just so we can do Swamp Palace.
So Doom tried to pick up the 50-50 rock, but unfortunately didn't get his heart. So he may have one more chance depending on some crab RNG, but definitely just allows you to do one of the rooms at Nice Palace a little bit faster, but not a big issue.
Yeah, he can certainly have a fast Ice Palace without it, I'm sure, even if it's not optimal. The bigger thing in a race like this is that Buane has him. Buane's going to do those strats, and that's just, a second here, a second there when, he really wants to be catching up after, those 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, definitely Ice Palace, one of the hardest segments in my opinion. We'll see him having to stop there for the slash and trying to get into that little small whirlpool. But I'd say that definitely coming up, Buane here to one of the... Oh, I think I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure if he dropped his sword there or not. But I'd say that this section here, right where Buane is now, right through to the end of Cold Stare, one of the hardest. You will see having to get the jelly out of the way. Very, very nice room there. I I think that's one of the hardest rooms there.
Yeah, Vortex pointed out that Buane doesn't spin in that room. He does like a slash down, and I think it just went wrong for him. So yeah, I think after oh boy, he's having a lot of trouble grabbing that key on the conveyor. After Skull Woods, we got 34 seconds separating them. So I think a 1 second catch up by Doom, it looks like.
So Wayne having to have a second try at the bomb jump and not going for the dash over the pit there. So only losing 1 heart and a few seconds there, but back on track again. Doomtap making his way through the conveyor room now, getting knocked back there from Wayne, obviously not wanting to get knocked back, but can happen. Very nice room, Lonely Firebar room there, and it will be Doom's turn to do the Ice Palace bomb jump. Coming up to one of the hardest bosses of the game, the infamous Cold Stare. 8 fire rods to his ice shell, and then a few different strats you can do, pokes and slashes and spins. We'll probably see either a single or a double poke from Buane here.
Yeah, they're both going to do the single poke, I believe.
Using that menu there to see if they got both spins, and a very nice finish there from Buane. Very nice execution. See Doom do.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, all right.
One thing that the Cold Stare always reminds me of is that you know, we're constantly switching the position of the controller and our grips and the way that we are, you know, just handling the buttons because of what we need to do on them. And you know, if you haven't seen someone play with hand cam, controller cam, I know Doom does it. There's other players that do it, or you know, even players that don't regularly do it that have runs and VODs with it. And it's very interesting to see. Cold Stare is one of those, especially if you're going to pause there. You know, you really have to have the poke held down and release the spin and reach over. Like it's the piano grip is what I think a lot of people do there.
We're going to have a 54-54 for Buane, and we will see what Doom ends up with here.
And this is the split where it's going to start to look like they're even when they're 30 seconds apart, because Buane is going to get both Ether and Ice Rod right here, and Doom is just going to get Ether, which is about a 37-second difference, which coincidentally is about the difference in their times as well. So it's going to look like they're even pretty soon, I think, and we'll see just how even they are when they go into Turtle Rock. Yeah, about a 36-second difference. It looks like Buane gained about 2 seconds back on Doom in that last split.
Noticing Doom got nice arrow count, 19 arrows. He's going to like that. Buane, not so bad himself, 13 arrows. That was a very nice ice palace bomb, ice cave bomb there, and very nice use of the menus as well there, actually.
Yeah, he was dancing right up against that crab, and he came out unscathed. So, kind of as I was saying, they're both fluting to 4 right now, and it's going to look like they're practically even heading into Swamp, and now for the next, 20 minutes or whatever, we get to say, oh, but Ice Rod, the one Ice Rod difference.
Yeah, you get a lot of
Swamp Palace is another one of these paper cut dungeons, kind of like Agate Tower, where it's just like, this room could lose you a second or two, or this room could. There's not a huge risk of, you know, big chunks of time being lost quite the same way as, say, you know, in Hera and, you know, doing those early bomb jumps or falling to Moldorm, that kind of thing. But we'll see if one person can catch up or, you know, gain on the lead here.
Yeah, even the situation, it's always nice to see them screen for screen.
Yeah, it is quite a bit more fun to watch them, you know, nearly synced up like this. Even if we know that there's actually, you know, that 30-ish second difference. And this dungeon has just a lot of RNG to respond to, enemies and the way they move and the number of enemies around and how to handle them. There's just a lot of things you have to react to and start to know what could happen, what might happen, and then sometimes the game surprises you and just throws a new thing at you.
Yeah, I always find when you have two players on the same screen, it really emphasizes how much Doom missing that hammer there. It just doesn't look like much, but just allowed Buane to get further up the screen there. And it's always fascinating to see, you know, how much time does like a missed hammer or getting hit by a sprite actually take, and you get to see it firsthand here.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like much, you know, oh, 23 frames for this, 10 frames for that, this saves 5 frames, those kind of things. It sounds like so little, but again, it's just this game that's 500 plus screens, and those things add up into minutes. That's clean movement. That's why, you know, one of these runners could make a huge 3-minute mistake and still have a much better run than me, just because of all of those fractions of a second that add up over the course of an entire run.
Now we're almost synced, to be honest. Nice to see.
You know, I recently learned that there are actually some like potential like beam strats that exist. Not in some cases, not even a strat, but like there's that lonely jelly late in the dungeon that can be in your way that you see people do 2 slashes to time their dash, and it's actually possible that you can still have beams that deep into swamp. I just realized this like a week ago, and my mind was blown that that's a thing that can exist, just because there's always something trying to hit you. But these runners are so good at responding to it. You see that, you know, between the two of them, neck and neck, this deep into Swamp Palace, you know, we have a half heart down collectively.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same on the main stream, but these guys have been like synced for the last like 30 seconds for me.
Well, in that case, I might refresh because I see a slight but minimal difference.
Yeah, I do my head by a second. I don't know if it's just the way that I have it open.
Yeah, it looks about right. So yeah, he's going into this hook dash run that allows us to pick up this pot from places we're not supposed to pick up this pot, which is just one of those like invisible things that you don't really know until you start to get more and more knowledge about the game. And here it is. There's that beam. Don't have to wait 2 slashes. You just beam him and dash right on through. Yeah, so Doom will make up a little bit of time there. He's has a good bomb and arrow count, and he just chooses to march right on through what we call the restock room. And Buane stops to pick up an item, which I believe was the arrows. Because he actually is good on bombs. He only needs the one, really. Because he already has the ice rod.
Doomtap trying out the zero circle. He looks like he's going to get it, actually. Very nice. And Buane is also going for it here, and he is also going to get it. Fantastic from both runners there.
Yeah, and one little thing that will make a little bit of difference is that's the first part of it, but then Doom switching to the Fire Rod to sort of get that one cycle on the second phase of Argus, whereas Buane electing to just give him the 2 spins.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see both players nailing a zero cycle literally at the same time on the same screen. That's brilliant to see. I would debate that that's definitely one of the hardest things to pull off in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've never successfully done it. It's very tough. You have to hit, you have to hold your sword out and then get the Y and A button at the same time, which already you're talking about a weird grip to start it off. And then if you don't do the right rhythm, you'll drop the sword and lose it. So you have to keep hooking in the right rhythm. But then in order to make that work, there has to be something that your hook shot gets on the other end. So you have to kind of dance around left and right, back and forth to make sure that you're actually continually hitting these puffs over and over again. Much harder than they make it look like. They've spent a lot of time in that room, I'm sure.
We're on to the infamous Mire. There's really, for the most part, it becomes quite consistent the better you get at it. Mire 2 can sometimes go astray, and really other than that, there's one slug that can really mess your day up. But other than that, it should be straightforward for most of them, and the very fight again should be more consistent for these guys. And definitely, after getting to the last 3 splits in the game, you'll definitely start to see some of the harder dungeons and rooms coming up. But
Yeah,
make no joke, Mire can be very difficult sometimes.
It definitely is, although I think there is sort of a common, notion between top runners that it is one of the easiest Dark World splits. It becomes very consistent because there's not a ton of RNG. There's that slug that you mentioned that you have to look out for in one room, but a lot of these rooms and some of the stuff like the fire bar, where that is, you either take a hit or you just walk it instead. There's not a lot of tricky stuff or other strats that you have to learn necessarily. It's people are taking usually consistent amounts of damage, and it doesn't take as long to get to that level as it does for other dungeons. And here is that slug RNG for Doom, and he cuts his dash early and kind of slashes him through the wall to get him out of the way, because these slugs are the one thing that can hurt you a lot in this dungeon. They do 4 hearts of damage, and if this dungeon goes wrong because of damage early on or something, it's usually because of that room.
Yeah, both players getting the slug against the rail there, and both of them dealing with it really, really, smashing the slug to them. Nobody likes that slug. That slug deserves to get slashed or killed in whatever way possible. He got a 4-drop Glenn from that, from the slug.
So the one big trick in this dungeon kind of is the spooky action at a distance. So before entering the dungeon, we set an elevation level. There's voodoo going on. You pick up the rock from the bottom. It has to do with how the bird's leaving the screen, and somehow the game also reads that, and it decides that with that value, it also uses it to decide where the ice or the fire rod splash damage hits. So we have to make sure that resets. So we're gonna get to the basement here. And we're going to just drop a little dash dust before we drop a cane block, so it's on screen at the same time, and that through voodoo again will make it not reset. And then we can just fire rod stuff all over the back half of this dungeon, and it just hits crystal switches through walls, way off screen, all kinds of stuff like that. And that saves about 13 seconds or so, I think, and that was discovered in 2018 in May. And that's been kind of the biggest major time save thing that's been discovered in this run in the past couple of years, I think, as a single thing that saves 10 plus seconds.
Yeah, spooky is a very, very cool find. It's really not too difficult to execute once you understand how it goes, but there is the odd time Spooky 2 can cause a little bit of an issue depending on the altitude, and that's why players will like to have a bomb at this point as a backup, especially for a race.
Yeah, in a race, it's not a bad idea to have because losing 13 seconds is not great, but if you're stuck and you have to do it, it's better to only lose 13 and maybe that extra 1 second you took grabbing the bomb versus you having to go figure out where the hell you're going to get a bomb.
That plus you're going to be down a magic, but you can get the magic pot if you need it, the big one before you're heading downstairs. So we're going to see 1 slash and a 2 slash and a 3 spin slash and 1 arrow for Doom. And very similar for Buane. Buane putting 2 arrows there. He wanted to make sure that eye was gone. Both very clean fights. Pretty much screen for screen, back and forth, you know, a sec or so. But like we expected, both players through, no issues. And we will head on to T-Rock, where we will finally get to see Doom go for the ice rod, and then we'll see where the time is at after that is done.
Yeah, although just given the fact that they are kind of, you know, defeating the boss almost at the same time, I think it's been kind of a you know, other than that failed bomb jump, you know, and the blue ball differential, they've been kind of consistently, you know, mid 30 seconds apart. You know, it's been pretty much like that the whole way through the Dark World here. You know, one of them's picking up a second or two here, and then it's going back the other way in another split, which is really fun to see. This is some high level play right here. So as we heard at the beginning of the race, if you were here then, both runners have said that Doom has the better end game. So that's good news for us because that can make it a more exciting race as we do these, you know, very challenging, very technical dungeons at the end, an extremely technical fight in Gannon. So we'll see if he, you know, if that's enough. I mean, 30 seconds is a lot of time, but you never know what could happen. I'm excited to see if he can make up some time without any mistakes happening on the other end and just how much that can be.
Yeah, unfortunately, taking a hit from the crab cost him a couple of secs there, and down 2 hearts to start off TR. Nothing major though. Doomtap getting a dead rock hit there, and Buane getting through quite nicely. Buane had pretty nice overworld there.
Yeah, actually, in his 123.55 PB, he does get dead rock blocked, dashing up at that first top screen of T-Rock, or of Death Mountain, I mean. And you know, that's a costly mistake because you just, I mean, you can, there's ways to reset it and stuff, but he just waited for it there, and that's a big time loss. I mean, that's he said it's his least favorite screen in the game, the one that Doom just exited right now, and it's certainly none of these screens are any fun, especially when you get stuck. If you get stuck on a pace, and especially when it's this tight, you know, if you're a newer runner, you know, 10 seconds, you can make up for it with execution as you improve somewhere else. But 10 seconds are harder and harder and harder to come by the deeper you get into this when you're 123 players. It's just, it's not easy.
Yeah, you'll see. He actually liked to slash that dead rock. I don't think he likes that screen. I can understand that dead rock screen has cost probably more runs than you could count on one hand. 2 hands, probably 2 feet as well, for that matter.
I think we all have these screens where, in theory, the RNG is all the same and like everything, you know, everyone should be getting an even amount, but it's like there's that one bad RNG that you get a lot more somewhere in the game, or that the ones that you never get, like those kind of things come up. And I think that Buane has just been burned on that screen more times than he ought to have, you know, in a fair amount of even dice rolling over the course of, you know, what the RNG should give him.
But Buane, on the way back from Roller Room there, elected to take its time and make sure didn't actually take any damage there. I wondered if it was just wonder if that was a safe play or not, if he realized he wasn't going to make it and it was going to be dodgy there. But he basically liked to do a strat. I don't think he took any damage. So maybe knowing that he's a little bit ahead, maybe, and not wanting to put himself in any unnecessary danger.
Yeah, or maybe he just messed up the movement a little bit. Yeah, it sounds like he had to wait it out anyway, is what Greenham is saying. That's a really tight movement room. Like, you cannot get that return strat optimally if you don't do the upwards part optimally. You really have to be opening the key where that roller is in the right spot or earlier. Little chest turn, little swag on Buane's side for fun.
And getting the bottom left RNG, probably the hardest, but definitely fastest. And I always love watching people nail that. It's a lot more difficult than it looks.
Yeah, and same thing on Doom's side here. That skull gets in your way, and they make it look so easy, but you have to get that skull out of your way without dropping your spin charge, because that's slow. We don't want that. Both runners also have beams here, which is going to make, if they keep them in this back half a little bit faster, there's just some faster and somewhat easier strats here, like the room that Buane's coming up on in 2 rooms here, the Crystal Roller room.
Yeah, I noticed that cancel as well, like Greenham. That was sweet. Funnily enough, like through this run, these guys have had the same RNGs almost through the whole run. Have you noticed that? On a lot of screens.
There's a lot of rooms where they're getting the same thing, which is great for a race. It really is. That's what you want to see, because now, for the most part, we are talking about execution and not those things. Now, those things tend to even out even when they're not exactly the same. Even though blue balls are different, make a big difference for people, it's not usually deciding these runs. Like, there's enough of an execution difference between players that it's typically not the thing, but it can happen. These RNGs can, make issues happen and change leads and that kind of thing.
Fantastic laser skip there from Wayne. The fast strat through 1/ to the beetle, and no problems there. He will probably do he's going to do the walk strat here. Through getting the iframes and a nice dash, he will be on to try next, and it will be Doomtap's turn to do the laser skip.
Yeah, and we'll see that switch room. I think we'll see the cane dash from Doom, not the walk strat. And we do see the cane block to get that beetle out of the way on the laser skip. So slightly different strats on the back half of T-Rock here.
No problems for the first part of try next for Buane. He will get a double spin and a menu to the hook and a slap. Ooh, taking a hit there, but that's fine. Lots of hearts to play with there. And he will finish up try next. It will be Doom's turn. He will be menuing to the ice. Will be 1, 2, 3, 4. One more and a menu, and it will require the same on the other side here. And he should clean up. Oh, taking a that was a very aggressive. That was a very aggressive RNG. Has knocked the link into the right wall there, but no problems there. Finishing it up. Get the double to the hook and finishing up nice there.
Yep. So we are headed into Gannon's Tower, the ultimate dungeon where we refight all the light world bosses with the twist. We use just about every item in our repertoire: hook shots, boomerangs, arrows. All of this stuff becomes necessary, and it's a pretty long dungeon. It's not the longest split. For a lot of people it is, but at a higher level, you're not going to probably see that be the longest split for these guys. But there can be variance in it. There's a lot of RNGs too. The Land Mola refight and the RNG that you get there, the RNGs that Aga 2 gives you and how you respond to those. So I don't think we can see a 30-second swing here, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for someone to get knocked off of Mold Arm 2. It's probably about the scariest thing, I would say, in Gannon's Tower. I always get nervous myself going into that room. I'm always afraid I'm going to get frame rolled and get knocked off the edge. But I think even with that, if you can keep the pace down, you should be fine. And then you obviously have the Aga 2. You have Moldrum 2 as well. There's this 5-second swing there. And Aga 2, you can have a 2-cycle versus a 4-cycle. So definitely lots of rooms to make up time. And Jumo will be hoping to get his dashing boots on.
And one difference in their PBs and one potentially different strat is this refight with Moldrum 2. You kill him and you have to wait for his death animation before he chest spawns, and then you're able to hook shot across. But that takes a lot of time. Buane, that's what he does in his PB. He does this, the standard kill and hook shots across. In Doom's PB, he does hover. He does also get the Helma key. And does some other stuff like, in his PB, he skips the magic refill. So he's fighting Gannon with half magic later. He doesn't menu to hookshot at all. He stays on the fire rod. So some of these little things that can just add up to a few seconds. And, I asked him, what's, do you do it in races? Do you not do it in races? And, he says he generally doesn't do it in races. It's unlikely that he'd go for it. But he also told me that he's going to check at Gannon's tower, what the difference is. And, it'll be interesting to see whether he goes for it or not. He's not just a few seconds behind. I wonder if he'll think, hey, I got to do this to make up the time or not.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see it from him. He's going to know he has to pull something big out here. So I'm pretty certain we're going to see it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I actually did, I pulled a little clip of him and his thoughts on hovering.
Well, I don't like to hover because I suck at it. But sometimes it's fast.
Sometimes it's fast. I think this could be the time. I think he's going to go for it here.
That's such a good clip. So Mimics 1 there from Wayne, and Doomtap finishing up Ice Armos. No problems there for Buane. Heading on to Spike Skip.
Yeah, we do see a less common strat from him here where you jump off the side of the top, but and goes to the right side too. Just a little different. I don't know if there's a time difference to it or it makes a big difference. There's a couple of different things you can see in that room other than the standard thing that you see most commonly. I've seen people do a bow dash in that room to hit that switch. There's just different options, but he does that one. It's fun to see someone do something different sometimes,
I mean, you have optimal and then you have what works for you. Like what works for you is sometimes a little bit better than doing optimal if it's you can do it consistently every time and not bleed too much time. So
yeah,
I
that's
actually
really
don't know
important.
if it's faster or not, but
when I was watching Doomtap's PB early on the PB, he's talking to someone in the chat, and he's saying that at a high level, like these top runners, you could just put on the gameplay, no cam, no layouts, no title where where the name is, and a lot of these other top players are gonna be able to know who it is just from the strats that they use and the gameplay. And I think that spike room is one of the things that people will kind of identify, like, oh, this is Buane we're watching. This is his gameplay, his strat right here.
Just noticing there, I believe Buane having a 3-cycle Lamo too there, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but if Bloom can get a 1-cycle, he'll catch up a little bit of time here. And there we go. That will catch up 10 seconds at least there for Doom.
Yeah, Gannon's tower is not easy, and doing seen people most recently, I think that I'm aware of, like Moogle did 100 of these, and you can see a lot of variants doing 100 of these. This is just, there's so many rooms, there's so many things going on. I think I've heard that this dungeon has 75 rooms, and there's a few that are easy. There's that room that you just press dash and try to press dash on first frame and go through it before that spike room. But almost every other room has something going on.
Yeah, so we got Morum 2 and Aga 2 and Gannon. So and obviously the potential hopper from Doom here could catch up some time. So not out the woods yet. Here we go with Morum 2. dashing through, no problem. And very nice cleanup there from Buane. Doom getting the helmet key, a fantastic helmet key there, no issues.
Yeah, and he told me that he doesn't usually get that particular key in races, but I think that's an indicator that he's going to go for the hover. Well, I mean, he did switch to hookshot, so he's going for half magic Gannon too. He skipped that refill, so he's definitely in the I'm behind, I got to go for it all. And here it is. And there it was, levitating over pits. If you don't know, the way that we do that trick is the game takes 2 frames to check to see if Link is going to fall. So if you just continually press the dash button, letting go for exactly 1 frame, you won't fall. And then you just have to keep doing that long enough over and over again until you make it over the pit. Easy.
When cleaning up Agatu there, Doom will be hoping for a 3 cycle. He's got 2 hits left, I believe, if he can clean it up. Oh, a little bit unfortunate.
Goes a little bit awry for him there, yeah.
He should clean this up.
He had Aga teleport away before one of his hits, and then, yeah, an extra cycle there. So definitely Buane's race to lose, you know, with a relatively clean Gannon. It should be his. There's obviously some warp RNG here, but, you know, that's probably only going to be, you know, a difference of, you know, each warp, 1.5 to 2 seconds, and it would have to really add up to be the difference here.
Phase 2 there. We will watch the warps, but I think you'd have to have a significant amount of warps to have any impact here. That's 1, that's 2. Two so far. You got a 3. So 3 warps for Buane there. I think Doom have a couple himself there. Onto phase 4 for Buane, and Doom onto, I think we're going to see a double spin here and in a fire rod. Very nice early double hit there from Doomtap. Buane still in phase 4, just cleaning it up here, finishing off.
Yeah, such a close race here.
And that looks like it's gonna do it for Buane. All he has to do is walk to the Triforce and he will pick up the win. Fantastic finish. We got a 125.06 for Buane.
And I think that is his fastest time in the tournament so far. So GG to him on that. It's also 31 minutes and 40 seconds above his sum of worst. So a little sum of worst looks like a PB, but we know it's not.
Yeah, that would be an insane 31 minute PB there from Buane.
and Doom finishing just 9 seconds behind according to his splits with a 125.15.
So Doom definitely gaming on the... He made up a lot of time in that Gannon's tower. I believe Buane had a 3 cycle Lamo 2, Doomtap with the 1 cycle and getting the hover. So 15 seconds there. And I think he may have a little bit of a faster Gannon slightly, maybe 1 or 2 less warps. So he definitely gamed in Gannon's tower to try and keep it as close a race as possible. But Buane did what he had to do. He had the lead from Hera. He kept his head down. He just kept doing his normal game and was able to close it out. So GG's. And I believe that we have them on the call right now. Who do we have on the call?
Hey, it's Buane. What's up, buddy?
Hey, congratulations, Buane. Fantastic race. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, crazy that it was that close. I think that I'm pretty satisfied with this for a tournament run. pretty gross light worlds and some unfortunate stuff there in GT. But overall, really can't complain about this for a tournament run at all.
Yeah, this was, I believe, your fastest tournament race run so far.
Oh, thank God it wasn't another 125 2X. Yes, this was my best one, and definitely the one I played the best into, especially considering the 5, 6 blue balls, whatever it was.
Yeah, I believe it was 5.
Yeah.
So I have to ask. We were talking about it in amongst ourselves, but we were wondering: were you watching the stream, or were you kind of checking? And at any point, or what point did you realize that Doom had a mistake there?
I actually normally in my tournament races, I usually will check at like specific times. Like after Hera, I'll see, okay, did we have a Hera disaster? And then I'll check after Pod, okay, did we both make it through Helma? And then usually like after Cold Stare. And then I probably won't check again. That's how I've been doing it the rest of the tournament races. I forgot to bring up Doom's stream to start the race. And so I just kind of figured, you know what? If I was ahead when I checked, I would have to play really well to beat Doom. If I was behind when I checked, I would have to play really well to beat Doom. So I'm just not going to pull up a stream, and we're just going to do everything we normally would. And if it's close, it's close. If I lose, I lose. But it wasn't really going to alter my play style or choices.
Yeah, so you don't know what happened to Doom then yet?
I don't. I have no idea, no.
Yeah, so Doom failed the early bomb jump in Hera and fell down to the floor, and he was about 30 seconds behind you 35 seconds behind you for most of the game. You know, when you got the ice rod first, you were practically synced up for those couple segments until he got the ice rod. And then, he made up a lot of time in GT. I think he told me he was going to check, at the start of Dark World and at the start of GT to see where he's at. And he probably knew because of the mistake, early on that he had to game out. So he went for the hover. He got the hover. He went for the Helma key. He skipped that and did the half magic Gannon. And he actually, right in that last bit did catch up quite a bit, as you can see by the final times, but not enough to make up for that mistake.
I was hoping that it wasn't like one singular mistake, because it feels so bad when you have, a 40-second mistake in your run, and as opposed to, just maybe like 3 not so great splits. They kind of add up to 40 seconds of time loss. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough. Once I started doing the early bomb jump, it's kind of hard to change your strategy. So I've been doing it in my tournament runs. I feel like if I tried to change the type of bomb jump I did there, it would just lead to probably more failures, and that would feel worse if I tried to do a safer bomb jump. So you're going to miss it sometimes. It's unfortunate how much time loss it is, but yeah, my end game was not great. The nice 3-cycle Landmo 2, and if Doom put up, probably one of his sub-7 GTs, or he's so much better at the end game than I am, that it is not surprising that he would make up lots of time, even if I had played well. But yeah, at least I'm sure it was getting kind of sweaty, I guess, if I'm 30 seconds ahead the whole run, and then he starts taking chunks of time there at the end, and I'm missing spins left and right on Gannon. That felt amazing. But yeah, just I guess kind of unfortunate that I'm kind of glad I didn't check, because I would have probably made way more mistakes if I knew I had a sizable lead. So I guess that worked out in my favor.
So we have Doomtap on the call. GG Doomtap for definitely clawing back the second half of the game. Give us your thoughts on the run.
Yo, GG Buane.
Yo, GG Doom. Nice run.
So I started watching the restream basically after the Dark World, because I knew I was behind. And on my game feed, I was synced up with Buane the whole time. So I was basically 30 seconds behind. And I figured I could make it back if I played well, but I didn't until the end game. I'm not sure what else to say about it. I think it was a mediocre run from both of us. And we played similar, except for the mess up and the blue balls.
Yeah, my Light World was so bad, but I kind of expect bad Light World tournament run. So I think I had like a 46, 45 Aga entry, so it was pretty bad. Dark World was okay, a real big moth disaster, and then nothing really too terrible until, 3-cycle Landmo 2. Feels amazing. But yeah, I didn't look at the at your stream at all, Doom, at any point. I forgot to bring it up before the race, and then I kind of figured, you know what? If I was ahead when I checked, I would have to play really well. If I was behind when I checked, I would have to play really well. So I just kind of kept myself in the dark, and was basically it felt like a random match where I'm like looking over at the race time room the entirety of the Gannon fight, just expecting to see, Doomtap is finished 124.11, which I guess without the bomb jump failure, the rest of your run looks like it was pretty good if that's where your final time ended up. So I mean, for a tournament run, seemed okay-ish. Like I'm sort of half satisfied with my run, even though maybe had like one good split. But it's so hard to play this game with pressure and in a tournament setting that I'll take something like this, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, low 125s from both you guys. I mean, fantastic race. It was a pleasure to commentate for you guys. Do you have any final thoughts from both of you guys?
Just GG to Doom again. I mean, he's been just the last 4 or 5 months of his play so insanely consistent, and he's put up some really excellent runs, and just some of his individual splits too with his end game expertise. He might have one of the best GTs and Gannons of any players. So he's definitely better than me. I may have gotten a little bit luckier in this one, and maybe we get to face each other again in the lower bracket. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I don't think either of us had a run that's good enough to beat Airy. So
is this not going to get it done if I put up a 125.10? Okay. Damn.
Other than that, my GT was really good.
Yeah, your GT was fantastic to watch. Doom had a really, really good GT. And Buane, I think, made a couple. I'm not quite sure what happened with the 3-cycle Buane.
So I missed the first worm, and I should have probably gone for the second fire rod on the first worm. That was pretty greedy. But I killed the other 2 worms both on the left side of the screen, and just assumed that the first guy was spawning under the top worm, and so I released my spin and didn't do anything, and he spawned underneath the other exploding worm. So I assumed that he was under the first one that I'd killed, and he wasn't. He was down at the other corner of the room, so my spin didn't even hit him, and stood there looking pretty stupid and killed him on the next one. So a little unfortunate. I guess I could have just kind of tried to play it safe and walked into the middle of all the explosions, but other than that, actually, I feel like my gauntlet was really good, and 3-cycle Landmo 2, 4-cycle Aga 2. So otherwise, I'm kind of around my best possible GT. So you make a mistake sometimes in this game, and it's 12 seconds. So what are you gonna do?
I guess I got one question for your moth fight there. Were you a little bit scared?
5 hearts is where you want to be going into moth. Got so bullied by the mini Moldorms on the bomb jump. That felt great. But 5 hearts is where you want to be for exactly that reason. I got the double, and then he just hid in the it was right. The conveyor was going right, and moth went top left, and I tried to get the poke dash and couldn't get up there. Shouldn't have taken the second hit there. That did get a little scary, and so if he just gives me bad RNG there, who the heck knows what happens. But I hit him once into the spike, and he came back out. So shoutouts to him not being as mean as possible. But that's why you want 5 hearts. 5 hearts versus 4 hearts going into the moth fight. That's the difference right there.
Any closing words there, Doomtap?
No, I think that's everything. GG's to Buane. Hopefully you have good luck against Airy.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it. But GG, dude. This was fun. Just playing somebody at this caliber. Everybody who's left in the tournament at this point is just a top runner, and Doom especially. So it was a lot of fun just to get the chance to make it a close race, and I'm glad that it was.
Yeah, and we all got to have an exciting race as an audience and spectators here. You, Buane, will move on to the finals to face Airy. And then Doomtap has to wait a little bit for 3 matches first, but you will face either Bitey, Andy, Foxlisk, or Kaznode.
They're all scary opponents at this level in the tournament.
So I
All
believe
right,
we're
that's
gonna-
my cue to take it away from you guys. That was a really great match and some really awesome commentary. Be sure to follow the runners and the comms. I'll throw those in the chat real quick. And the next match that we are hosting... Oh, dang it, don't follow me. The next match that we are hosting will be in about an hour and 20 minutes. And that one is a loser's bracket round 9. Kaznode versus Foxlix. Another probably pretty close match. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. And thanks so much.
Thank you again for the restream.